Welcome to the show where we talk about the show where robots have, get, and fail to get over extreme levels of trauma. In case you're new here, make sure to watch the analysis introduction video to get a better idea of what these videos are about. Or you could just watch this anyway. You've already seen the title, so you know I'm going to talk about the parallels between murder drones and vampires somewhere in here, but this intro is long enough now, so let's get into it! Well, that's a mysterious symbol. But I'm sure it's completely meaningless and has absolutely no reappearances, hints, or far-reaching consequences whatsoever, he said to himself confidently. Firstly, the teacher, despite seeming the most lazy and careless of anyone, knows Uzi's name and understands she isn't just fighting to fight or complaining about the situation.
Repressed emotional baggage was only worth 2 points on the rubric.
He understands this isn't as simple as her showing off this.
Sick as hell railgun!
It's her grab at attention, and I think it's hilarious that the teacher of all people is the one to notice this. Forgive me for going so deeply into a couple posters and sticky notes, but I think there is something to be said here. One complaint I've heard people have about murder drones is how casually they treat death. Drones will die, and other drones regularly don't seem to care all that much. But I think these posters tell us a little about why. The drones have convinced themselves that they're free and living their own lives, but they were created to serve people. People even sent drones specifically designed to kill them once they weren't accomplishing that purpose. Now, just to survive, they hide in this bunker and just wake up hoping every day they can find purpose in this confined space without murder drones getting in to end their pathetic lives. It's not that the drones don't care about death, they do try to avoid it, but they definitely don't value life like we would, and their environment certainly doesn't help. They just don't seem to think very highly of themselves. Then there's Thad, good old THAD.
Classic toxic masculinity, Chad. That's never gonna end up problematic. Oh, wow, Uzi?
His trope as the popular guy could not have been established faster. His first word is classic, he has a friend with toxic masculinity, he laughs constantly while he talks, and he has friends at all. That's a strong difference from the only other character we know so far, and therefore a great person to explain to us just how lonely Uzi is. This is where we get Uzi is surprised he even knows her name, and the implication that nobody willingly talks to her.
How do you know my name? People willingly talk to you.
Well, I'd say everyone knows Khan's daughter, but, then you might blow the other half of your face off.
That talking about how he knows Uzi just by her dad already brings new context to her character, but Doors on My Real Daughter and speaking in public about dealing with your disappointing failure of a child establishes something more. Uzi not only doesn't have friends, or a mom as I'm sure you know, she isn't even appreciated by her dad as much as slabs of metal that can move. Now clearly she's got some,
Crippling daddy issues. Hilarious.
but she doesn't just want her dad's approval or to help her people.
To save the world with it and earn my dad's respect and stuff, but mostly the world part.
She wants to be seen. That is what pushes her to give a presentation on their history and pathetic situation instead of watermelons. If she just cared about her dad's opinion and saving the world, she wouldn't waste time on presenting it to her class. This is a girl struggling terribly for attention, and every part of her big fancy text fonts on the flashy presentation, combined with the premature use of a railgun, set up the extremity of her struggle for attention exceptionally well.
Oh, but doesn't your dad make awesome doors so we don't have to, do that scary sounding emotionally repressed stuff you just said?
No more feedback on my repression today!
On another note, though, Thad is a pretty great guy for his trope. Usually the sporty popular guy wouldn't bother with genuine kindness to someone clearly as unpopular as Uzi. But he actually takes steps in addressing her problems, and mentions his knowing her as Khan's daughter with a joke, trying to make light of his explanation. This is actually a pretty good guy, and Uzi might be able to see that if she wasn't already so obsessed with her current plan to impress her dad. Then we finally meet him. The man. The myth. The... Okay, maybe not that last one, but nevertheless, Con Dorman.
Robo Jesus.
And Robo Jesus, what a terrible father. Khan is perfectly aware of Uzi's failure to fit in by not believing for a second that she is a boyfriend, but is so desperate for her to be interested in Doors, he is willing to believe and support that immediately. This is the problem for Uzi. She wants her dad to be proud of her, but she doesn't believe in Doors. Khan is only willing to be happy for her in a career of Doors because of what happened last time he tried fighting.
And to put your mother out of her misery when the murder drones got to her with their nanite acid.
Even if Uzi killed a murder drone, Khan probably wouldn't be proud of her because he's incapable of believing in anything but the Doors he knows will protect them. I mean, a slab of metal that can be a wall but also not a wall? I would believe in those too. In a way, I guess I see Khan's point. His wife was killed by murder drones, and so far Doors have been able to save them from further grief. He also knows a bit about Uzi, even for as bad of a parent as he is. He knows she's a fighter and quite a bit different from the drones who have never contradicted his necessity for Doors. You could say with some optimism that he's trying to protect Uzi by trying to convince her Doors are better than fighting spirit, but there's just not much proof of that. He's perfectly willing to let her leave the bunker, leave the safety of the Doors, and that kind of cuts out any idea of him being overprotective. Khan even has a sticky note in his room saying Doors are better than Uzi. And let's not forget these newspapers saying Doors are his real daughter. I know these are meant to be comical, but there's still some truth of his character in them. Khan isn't just trying to protect Uzi, he just sees her as another problem in his life, and so far every problem he's faced has been solvable by Doors. So he takes the same approach with her. That's just not how you should handle children. But that's Khan for us, so let's look at something else. Behold, the best character in fiction. He's a good person, I promise. But that was probably justified. I don't know if he deserved that, though.
Did you just slap me with that arm?
Holy crap, it talks.
She didn't know they talked? This really goes to show how much of an us and them idea disassembly and worker drones have for each other. Absolutely no care for the others' lives, and absolutely no attempts at communication, until this happens and N can't recognize that Uzi is a worker drone. Inciting incident! Thanks for the brain damage, Railgun. I have a lot to say about N, but we'll start with his optimism. He gleefully praises his co-workers V and J as being great.
You'll love them.
But from the flashbacks we get, we know that just isn't the case.
So, V, I heard this planet-wide toxic death storm is supposed to be especially inhospitable tonight.
Oh God, who are you?
No worries, I'm N, but a whole letter is a lot to remember.
Despite the signs that these are terrible people, N insists that he even has a crush on V.
And yet, I still feel nothing.
While there's certainly an argument to be made that he's stupid, I prefer to think that he's optimistic to a fault. N doesn't have anyone but V and J. If they weren't his friends, if the company telling them to kill worker drones wasn't good, then he's been on the wrong side to be with them for so long. N wants to believe he's on the side of good, so he chooses to see the best, even when it isn't there. He chooses to believe V and J are not only worthy of friendship, but even worth having a crush on to avoid the idea that he's been on the wrong side of a war for years, and to cope with the terrible existence of being lonely and never getting the opportunity to fix it because his job is to put down anyone else he meets. This leads us back to where he can't recognize Uzi as a worker drone.
Yeah, sorry, it's just my, head kinda hurts. Hey, are you new to our squad? You're a little, short for a disassembly drone.
Now, obviously, there are signs. There's her being short, there's the fact that she doesn't have wings or a tail, there's the fact that she is not dressed in anything close to what a murder drone would wear. He should definitely understand that she's not a murder drone. So why does he? Well, I've got two theories. The first is his optimism. He's choosing to ignore the signs in a desperate hope to find an actual friend. And that's a little sad already. But arguably sadder is my other theory. When Uzi says, "Holy crap, it talks," she calls him an it, and implies that she didn't expect him to be capable of speech. From what we know of the other murder drones N works with, he may actually believe this is just how his friends will always talk to him. Instead of interpreting this as mean, he sees it as aligning perfectly with the only other personalities he knows who don't run in fear of him. Whether he's really just that desperate for a friend, or he's so numb to bullying that it seems normal, this is a horrifically damaged individual. He hasn't even developed any kind of filter for basic speech.
I'm serial designation N. Nice to meet you. I'm kind of the leader of the squad in this city. That's not true. Everyone tells me I'm useless and terrible. Wait, I'm not supposed to tell you that part? Biscuits.
Then he and Uzi really get to talking, and he shows just how much he's covering up. He doesn't say he likes his job or understands the need. He says,
I guess I just want to be useful. I was given a job, and I always want to try my best.
we see him get excited at the thought of rebellion, and then his eyes show fear, and he quickly covers with,
But not as fun as, following the rules.
he realized rebellion goes against the line of thinking he's tried to lock himself into, and he pulls himself back, saying out loud that following the rules he's been given is the right thing to do. Now, a couple quick visual gags. When N gets restarted, it says, slap accepted, meaning this is genuinely how they reboot each other. But also, it just tells us that he is the lovable idiot trope. And I love this kind of comedy where they're making direct references to the story itself with things like the lovable idiot trope or plot armor detected. Or even in the beginning, when Uzi's presentation said things like booting up exposition and
It's like we're waiting for an inciting incident.
she says while she has the protagonist's journey specifically with a murder drone sign on it. It's just great comedy, and Murder Drones is really good about picking its styles of comedy and sticking with them. Something we'll see more of later. Then, of course, we've got this whole absolute solver string blocked by administration sin. At this point, we have no idea what this program or this administrator are, but I'm sure it's just as, if not exactly as, meaningless as that weird symbol we saw earlier. To return to N, we see that he doesn't just try to convince himself J and V are good. He actively tries to maintain a decent appearance to deserve their friendship. If he just cared about the job,
I was given a job, and I always want to try my best.
he wouldn't risk the railgun getting away by not telling his teammates about it. Instead, He's trying to handle the situation himself to look capable, something he realizes when he stutters in telling them about it. Just like I'm sure we've all thought at some point, he doesn't want to tell his friends that he messed up. But the moment has arrived. We've finally reached what my thumbnail teased. The strong resemblance of murder drones to vampires. There's a good chance you've already heard this theory if you've been a fan of murder drones for any amount of time, or you figured it out yourself like I did.
Nice work.
However, there is one particular detail that I never hear anyone talking about, and it's the detail that really drove home the resemblance for me. Obviously, there's a lot of evidence for it, from the need to drink
Warm, sweet oil to avoid overheating and dying?
this situation's equivalent of blood, the ability to fly, those fangs, the immense power gap, and, as shown near the end, the avoidance of the sun.
I'd join you if the sun didn't kill me.
Despite their immense power, vampires follow a strict set of rules, and there's one very famous one that's used several times in this series. The fact that they can't enter a building unless invited inside. The bunker's entire thing is its dependency on doors and Khan's aversion to fighting that keeps them safe. Now Uzi goes out, shoots a murder drone's head off, and leads one back. It may not have been a direct invitation, but Uzi might as well have laid out the welcome mat for a murder drone to finally get past that boundary. Then comes the slaughter. Now, there are a couple ways you could potentially get your audience to care about characters before they're killed.
You guys
Wait
are
until my
best
loving
friends.
wife and kids hear about this.
And then there's the beauty of making this kind of humor about it.
Otherwise, no one has said my name aloud so far, so I'm just letting you know I'm.
In Dracula, the book written by Bram Stoker, the team believes themselves to be winning against the vampire, only to have the monster enter the home and destroy the very things they most wanted to keep safe. Additionally, the very man who invited Dracula in dies trying to stop the vampire from hurting anyone anymore. The difference is that N changes his mind, so let's dig into all of the whys in this scene. Firstly, there's Uzi. Despite how terrible of a parent Khan is, Uzi has never actually shown dislike for him. She still just thinks of him like a parent who she needs to earn the respect of, someone who would still help her if she really needed it, and, somewhat similarly to N, where would she be if she thought anything else? She has no friends and her mom is dead. Her dad is the only thing she has left. She wouldn't shoot the murder drone to save the whole colony if there was a chance the only person she's still trying to please might get caught in the blast. However, we know Khan a bit differently. After his wife was killed by murder drones, there's only one thing he trusts to keep them safe.
Good door. Good door.
It's not Uzi, and it's not a sick as hell railgun. It's doors, and Uzi just ruined a whole bunch of them. Also, she just got his whole doorman team killed. Those were probably his 4 best friends that he can see dead on the ground behind his daughter. He's had no time to process the death of 7 of his friends, and he knows Uzi is responsible. As easy of a choice as it seems to the viewer for him to just pick up the gun and shoot, there is no chance in this moment that Khan is thinking about anything other than putting all of this behind another door. So he does. Then there's N, and
The lamest heel face turn in history.
he reveals another important piece of his character here. He's already been hit with the railgun once. And he ended up talking to a worker drone, almost right in front of V and J.
Oh!
But he's not worried about being shot. He's worried about Uzi shooting V with it.
I can't have you shooting V with that thing.
N isn't just optimistic, he's a sacrificial hero of a defender. But thanks to his forced optimism in bad situation, he's been protecting people who would never do the same for him and certainly don't deserve it. Uzi, on the other hand, has been fully humanized to him. It's not just us and them or a job anymore. Uzi is a...
Maybe not so actually different from us. Worker drone.
More than that, she is also a protector. He can relate to her struggle to protect something, but can relate to it even more when she's rewarded with abandonment for it. This moment isn't just N feeling bad because her dad left her, it's genuine empathy for being an unappreciated and abandoned protector. He doesn't just see someone he no longer feels like killing, he sees someone who is actually worthy of his protection and friendship. So he tries to make his case to Jay, which didn't work so well.
I've made a terrible mistake. It's cool how immediately I could tell.
What's important is that he is clearly overcoming his mask. He's surprised V remembers his name, but he never actually smiles. He's not actually happy about it. Even the reward of branded pens can't overcome what N wants now, because he finally figured out something worth doing. N even understands that the company and their future is what Jay prioritizes, so he tries to convince her in those terms. But Jay's got her own thing going that won't allow her to ever abandon the side she's on. Then we see some real progress from N at the encouragement of Uzi.
Oh, Jay, you're sometimes kind of mean to me, and I wish you weren't. Just some constructive criticism.
Nice.
This really shows how perfect they are for each other. N is optimistic to a flaw and overly loyal to parties that he probably shouldn't be, but Uzi encourages rebellion. Uzi, meanwhile, struggles with abandonment issues, and now she is a friend with overly defensive tendencies. Neither one of these traits are particularly healthy in the amounts they have them, but by sharing them between each other, they perfectly hit the marks they need to. Characters complementing each other is one of the greatest writing details that can exist, in my opinion. And understand, I don't read a lot of romance, but this duo is more perfect than I could have hoped, and might be the best written protagonist duo I've ever seen for how well they fit each other. Also, before we move on from this fight, I always thought it was weird that Uzi seemed to get hit here but didn't actually have a bullet wound. But there's something else. Before the bullet even arrives, we see the return of that mysterious, but definitely meaningless, 3-arrow symbol. It's honestly probably just an animation error. Also, what in the wobbly bullet is happening here? Then, of course, there's this moment. Like I said earlier, Uzi would never shoot while the only person she was trying to impress was in the line of fire. I still don't think she would have done it if a similar situation came up after this, but she's certainly a lot closer. She has someone else, and a betrayal like that cuts deep, especially when she expected the answer to come easily for him. I know it's mostly a joke when she says,
That's not even an edgy teen hyperbole like when I said it last week.
but it serves the dual purpose of also accentuating how real this suddenly is, and is just another example of the great dialogue in Murder Drones. Han can't even bring himself to speak when Uzi is yelling at him. He doesn't apologize, he doesn't stand up for his choice, he just lets her leave, and then takes a sip out of that diabolical mug. I'm really glad that they didn't make him try to stutter a defense or apologize here, because silence can say it just as much as words sometimes. He's not sorry. He made a decision based on what he believed was right, but he understands she can never forgive him for leaving her to die. There's nothing to say, so he says nothing at all. He just... I promise that's the last one for the video. Probably. Then we've got just a couple things to top us off. The sunlight avoidance is the nail in the coffin on disassembly drones resembling vampires, but there's something else we get from this final scene. For just a couple frames, this definitely meaningless 3-error symbol appears again just before an error message that says the absolute solver string is false, but then it changes in just a single frame to true. If you really wanted to, you could infer at this point that the absolute solver does not seem to be a good thing, what with all the glitches and weird coloration that it's causing. But I'm quite certain that it's pointless and not worth explaining. And I'm absolutely sure that there is nothing to be worried about, that this absolute solver program is something blocked in murder drones, and now it's active in Uzi. So that is all I have to say on episode 1. If you spend any amount of time on YouTube, I'm sure you know that subscribing would be a great way to keep up with new videos, but it's also a great motivator to me. The more productive each video is, the more inclined I am to put more time towards it and get them out sooner. Now that we've got our Edward Scissorhands in the door, we'll be able to get more deeply into the plot and characters in the second episode. Until we meet again, this is Mr. This Guy, signing off. You can probably expect following videos to also be as long as their episodes just because of there being only that much to say. I know the second episode is, I think, 17 minutes, whereas this one was 26. So, following videos will probably be shorter than this one. But we'll get there when we get there. Make sure to tell me what you thought in the comments. I would love some criticisms, as this is my first, professional-ish video. And I would love some feedback. I am absolutely, if you were thinking it, stalling to make this video exactly as long as the episode itself.